You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Thanks so much for joining me here today on this Motivation and Mindset Monday, where we're about to talk about how to use the law of expectancy to attract what you want in your life. Now, one of the most amazing things about this law or principle is that it's been used for thousands of years and actually taught about way back in the Ayurvedic-based teachings. So even though I had read it in passing, it wasn't what I was looking to get out of my life. I wasn't looking to use these specific law of attraction-based principles or law of expectancy. I was looking for hard science. I was looking for specific ways in order to help me get well in life, get healthy. But I needed to understand that there's a big difference between getting the body healthy and getting the mind healthy. We oftentimes need to do both in order to truly heal ourselves in both body and mind. And only when we do that do we then be able to enjoy the other things in life, the relationships, moving forward in our career, a deeper sense of spirituality and connectedness, and transforming our body, of course. So what I want to teach you today is this, is that whatever you want out of life, it's already there for you. It's already all around you. It's the reason is this, is like, why don't you have it yet? That's the confusing part, right? Why don't you have the good health? Why don't you have the body? Why don't you have the career? Why don't you have the feeling of connectedness and spirituality? Why don't you have the relationships you want? Because they're there. They are there for you, but the problem is that there's some type of blockage. Now, I'm not going to deny that throughout life we do have our challenges. We are going to have to go through potentially some type of sickness, or we might have, of course, a death in the family and a loved one that leaves us, right? We all have to go through those specific things. But what I look at is this, is what is the overall work of your life? When you look back on your life, was it 90-10? Was it 90-10 good versus all the negatives that we deal with as humans through this human experience, right? And whether we have to look at them as negatives or not is the debate, right? When someone does pass away, is that a negative, right? It's obviously a negative to us, for most of us, myself as well. It's because we're losing someone that we can no longer physically see or touch in our life. But could we potentially still feel their presence? Could we look back on their memories? Could we be grateful for the time that we had with them? And those are difficult things to actually look at and comprehend. But what I'm saying is, even if, again, you look at it as a negative, and I understand that and could totally side with you if you feel that way. But if you look at overall with your life, with your health, with your relationships, with your career, with everything that you did with your life, was it 90-10? Did you get an A, right? That's what we want to look at. How did you do overall with your life? Well, I see so many people struggling right now, and what they don't understand truly is the law of expectancy. I didn't understand this, I would say, maybe till 10 years ago. I would say somewhere around that. Maybe I first learned about it 15 years ago, didn't have any idea what it was, didn't really use it, didn't really believe in it, and I just kind of went about with my life. But here's the problem. Those people that are not using the law of expectancy are basically moving through life in neutral. So good things could happen to them, bad things could happen to them, but they don't really know because they're not really guiding the ship. And the other part is this, is that a lot of times it's going to be more negative than it is positive because you're not moving towards something, right? So you're kind of being bounced around in life because those people around you may have more of a plan. They may have more of an idea. And the other thing is this, is that we need to be really careful, and I'm going to teach this today, about guarding our thoughts. Not every single one of them, but the majority of our thoughts. It's kind of like when we look back on our life, the body of our work. How was it, right? Well, what was the majority of our thoughts? Well, believe it or not, your work is going to be dictated by your thoughts. So you're going to be able to see exactly what a person thought at a deeper subconscious level. Now, when I say subconscious, just understand it's actually very, very simple. It just means that is what's below the conscious level. The conscious level is what you are thinking, right? What you can comprehend, what you understand, what you feel your thoughts are. The subconscious are the programs, essentially. The things that keep you safe, your gut feeling, those types of things that you aren't fully conscious of or aware of unless you're someone that started to begin to think about it. And that's what I've been teaching lately on these Motivation and Mindset Mondays, because as I see more and more people in my practice, and really I'm to the point now where I've done this for many, many years, and we've seen tens of thousands of people. And when you get that type of experience, things become more clear. Things that you can't teach in medical school, that you can't teach in naturopathic medical school, that you can't teach anywhere, even to psychologists, is that you need that experience. And that's why there's a lot of students that listen to this podcast. You have to understand is that, and I was the same exact way. When you're going through school and you're reading the textbooks, you feel like you're absorbing so much information and you feel like you know it all. And I was there, and maybe you're not there. Maybe you're a lot more level-headed than I was. But when you start to get into practice, it's different than the textbooks, right? So I get these messages like, hey, this is what I learned in my textbooks, but you're doing this. And I just say, listen, I learned the same things. Here's what works in the real world, right? Because we're dealing with real people, not in a lab. This isn't a research study. We're actually working with real people in the real world. And I say that because you in life as well need to keep moving through life in a fashion where you feel like you're always learning. But what I want you to do is I don't want you to move through life unconsciously. I want you to move through life consciously so that you're aware of your surroundings. You're aware of what's going on. You're aware of you moving forward or backwards in life. And I see this all the time in my practice, and I do want to get to what the law of expectancy is, but I do want to share it through a story. So when I see people in my practice, and I've mentioned this before, right? So what do I do every day? Well, it's a naturopathic, it's a natural health-based practice. It's an integrative health practice. And so what I look to do is use the best of every form of medicine out there in order to help people heal. That's my end goal. But when people come into my practice, and especially when I get to talk with them over Skype, or one of my health coaches get to talk with them over Skype, we know the people already that are going to have the easiest time getting well versus the people that'll have the most difficulty. And you might be surprised, but it almost has nothing to do with what they're dealing with. We've seen it all. Name any single autoimmune or rare genetic-based disease someone's had, or name the worst digestive issue where someone's only able to eat 3 foods. Literally, I've had people come in able to eat 3 foods. That's it. And they throw up after every meal, right? Think about how hard life is at that point. So name them the worst of the worst. Then name someone with something more minor. Oh, I've got a little bit of grogginess in the morning, a little bit of brain fog, nothing too major. And so we look at them, and I can tell by how they're speaking to me. I can tell by their drive of how well they want to get well, or their expectancy. Will they get well, or are they just doomed and destined to be this way because they've already seen a dozen other doctors? How is this going to be any different? Maybe I'll give it a shot. I'll try my best. Maybe I won't. There's a huge difference in the mindset. And I don't care if the person has the worst dis-ease of the body in the world. If they go into it believing, listen, I'm sick right now. I know I'm sick. There's no doubt about it, but I'm going to work every day until I get better. That person's getting better. No doubt about it. I don't know the timetable quite yet. Neither do they. And that's because, listen, we don't always get to choose the timetable. If you plant seeds and flower bulbs in the fall, and you sit there with your eye to the ground, your literally nose in the dirt every single day, that flower is not going to sprout through that dirt. It's not going to sprout through that dirt because it's going to need a few things. It's going to need the proper nutrients from the soil. It's going to need sunlight. It's going to need enough moisture and water. And it also has to be the right season. That's what a lot of people are missing. Just because it gets sunlight and nutrients during the winter and some moisture, that flower is not going to bloom until its proper season, and that is the spring or later spring, because there's a few things that have to happen. One is that the flower bulb itself needs to get everything that it needs in order to come to life, right? Just like the human body. But it also has to be in alignment with when things naturally will happen in life. And if you've been sick for decades, you might not get well in 2 weeks, okay? You might not get well in 2 weeks. But what you're going to do is you're going to work the process. You're going to wait for cells to begin to turn over. They're going to get stronger. The inflammatory-based cytokines flowing around in your system are going to get less and less. Your energy is going to get to be boosted. Your immune system is going to start to level out. Your digestive system will improve, and you will eventually be able to begin to rebalance those hormones and come back to life. All in good time, right? But here's the thing. That's why all the people with the worst diseases in the world can get well, right? They will get well. But the people with even the minor things will not get well if they believe that this is part of their genetics, if this is part of their destiny. Everyone in their family has always been sick. It's just a matter of time before they get sick as well. And I see that in my own life with family, with friends. They just expect that this is going to happen. They expect as they age, they're going to break down. As they age, they're going to get more tired. As they age, this, and this is going to happen. Okay, you expect that, and it will be given to you, right? So the law of expectancy is this. You will always get more of that of what you expect, right? And you might say, well, no, because I expect this and this. And I ask you this, do you really expect that, right? Do you really expect it? Because I'll tell you this, when I was getting well, or when I was first sick, I got sick and sick and sick. And that's because I grew up in a community, in a family or whatever, where we took antibiotics all the time. We expected to get sick during the winter. We expected to take antibiotics. When our adenoids get swollen or our tonsils get swollen, our doctor, our physician said, time to take them out. You know, my family listened to all of the doctors, the conventional medicine doctors, that they said, this is it. And of course, they were the leaders, right? You listen to your doctor, of course. Well, your doctor listens to the American Medical Association, who gets bought and paid for by all these other different companies. People don't know this. American Medical Association is a private company. It's a private company for profit. So when we look at this, you say, okay, well, that's where all the information is being handed down. I expected all that. When I had a little bit of acne as a teenager, went to the dermatologist, got antibiotics, more antibiotics. Antibiotics were the cure, right? You know, and this is in the 90s, going to my dermatologist. Okay, here's the thing. Took 3,000 capsules of amoxicillin, basically sterilized my gut, wiped out my entire immune system. There was nothing left to me. And I got sick, and I got more sick. And the doctor said to me, there's really no hope. We don't know what's wrong with you. Here's what you're going to have to do. You're going to either have to get worse, and then we'll eventually have something that we can diagnose and treat with a medication, or maybe you'll get better. Most likely not, but we'll see. Time to go home. That was it. Or it might be all in your head. Maybe you should go see a psychologist. So that's what I was dealing with. And of course, I got more angry. And since everyone told me I wasn't going to get well, I expected to be sick. And I was sick, and I was sick. And then eventually I found functional medicine. I started running functional medicine lab tests. I ran the thyroid adrenal hormone lab test. I ran the food sensitivity test. I ran a stool test. I figured out, I have H. pylori, I have candida overgrowth, I have SIBO. You know, they just told me I had IBS before. Well, what does IBS mean? It just means you have irritable bowels. Yeah, of course. Of course. I already knew that. I didn't need somebody else to tell me that I was bloated. Thank you for the diagnosis. What do you want me to do? So then I figure out what it is. And I start to do the proper things. I eliminated the foods I was sensitive to, like normal foods, some beans, and I eliminated chicken, and I eliminated kidney beans, and I eliminated almonds, okay? And I eliminated dairy, and I started to feel so much better, okay? But guess what? I hadn't changed my mind yet. I had not changed my expectancy because I was still that little kid that got sick all the time. That was my subconscious. I got sick. During the winter, you'd get sinus infections. That's normal, right? Normal to get them twice a month, right? Be on antibiotics all the time. Normal that when you travel, you would get sick. Normal that you'd carry Sudafed around with you. You'd take that during the day for allergies, and then you'd take Benadryl at night to fall asleep. That was normal. That was normal for me. Well, here's the problem. Started to get well, started doing all the right things, but I would relapse. I'd get better, and then I'd relapse. And I'd get better, and then I'd relapse. And you could see the trend, and it happened all the way through my 20s. And so, yes, I started to get better when I was in my mid-20s, but I never got fully better. And the reason I didn't is because I never changed my expectancy. I always believed I would just get sick again. Even when I started to get well, I was like, this is great, but I'm going to get sick again because that was what I expected. And I know that this isn't going to make sense to a lot of people, and it didn't to me either. Because you have to understand, so here's the thing. If I had the candida overgrowth, SIBO, I had Addison's disease, type 2 diabetes, I had myalgic encephalomyelitis. I had all sorts of things going on, right? POTS. Here's the deal. If I had just expected to get better, I don't think that I would have gotten better, right? I'm not saying that. I don't believe necessarily. Now, you might. That it might actually be able to happen, and I actually believe that it's possible. I do believe it's possible. I just think that we're not there yet as a culture, as a society, of all of those things. I do believe that you can actually heal your body, but here's the deal. No matter what I believed, even if I believed I would have got better, and I believe that if most people believe they're going to get better or they're going to, I'll give some other examples in the future or later in the show, that it can happen. But I'll tell you this, I don't think I would have gotten better even if I expected it, if I hadn't done the work. You still have to do the work. But here's the interesting thing about the law of expectancy. You're believing you're going to get better, but you're also doing the work. You're putting it into action. And that action, though, also reinforces your belief that you are worthy, that you're going to get it, that you're going to get well. Because listen, you're putting in the work too. So I did all the different Candida-based work. I did the SIBO-based work, and I did the H. pylori work. Now, did I relapse again? Yes, because the Candida-based work that I did 15 years ago or so was not the proper regimen that I have now, right? It was like 30 days. Okay, well, that's not enough, right? It's not enough. It's not using the proper biofilm disruptors. It's not, I was using probiotics when I shouldn't be using probiotics. Those came later. So you have to understand is, you have to have the law of expectancy, but you match that with what you're doing in life as well. So that's why I could look at it in a few ways. I was doing the right things in my mid-20s, and I was getting well, but then I would relapse, and I would relapse because I had not yet changed my mindset. Now, what is it today? My mindset today, and the reason why I believe I get better every single year, and I'm already well. I've been well for many, many years now, and I feel great, but I feel better now. And that's because I believe my inflammatory levels, which I'm so prone to inflammation, always have been, that is in my genetics. But just keep in mind, I'm good now because, again, my environment is more powerful than my genetics. And that's important for all of you with genetic-based issues like I do to remember. Your environment is more powerful than your genetics. Okay? I want you to remember that. And so I do the things in life to keep me well. But the problem, or I shouldn't say the problem, the good thing is this. The more I do it, the healthier I get, the more balanced I become. So now I just spent weeks traveling all around the U.S., changing time zones every 48 hours to 72 hours. I was doing interviews. I would do 10 hours of talking a day, right? I would be going out to dinners with people, all these fun things and great things, but it was taxing on my body. You put me in that position 10 years ago, I'm wiped out. Flu-like symptoms, swollen glands, can't get out of bed, exhausted, muscle aches, you name it. I'm a mess. Not anymore. And I'm older. I'm 10 years older, but I'm healthier, I'm stronger, and I have more energy than I've ever had before in my life. And it's not just me. I only give you me as an example because I believe I was at the bottom, right? But there's a lot of people at the bottom, not just me. I'm not unique in that way. But if I can do it and I can share with you what worked, I want to be able to do that. Because I'm telling you right now, I went to brilliant doctors and they did the right things for the most part, but I needed to work on me. I needed to expect a different outcome. So now what do I expect? I expect that, yes, every once in a while, I've got my 2 girls, they come back from school, they're catching whatever the other kids are catching, and they don't have the built-up immune system yet, right? So kids are supposed to get sniffles every once in a while. Now, should they get sick more than really like 6 times a year or so, maybe 8 times or so maximum? That doesn't mean that they're sick for weeks. It means they're sick for a couple of days because they catch a virus or an illness that they've never been exposed to before, and then the healing process takes place. Well, yeah, if your child's sick all the time, that's not normal, right? If they're congested all the time, that's not normal. You should check them to see what's going on specifically. But here's the thing. Will I catch something during the winter? Will I get a cold? Yes, that's totally normal. But now I'm not worried that it's going to turn into a sinus infection and then I'm going to get run down and get pneumonia. I don't. And even if I were to get the sinus infection, which I've had before, I don't need to run to the antibiotics. I know how to get well. And I do that and I tell myself, listen, it's a cold, no big deal. Before I used to get so worried that it would basically turn into pneumonia or that I'd be run down again then for the whole winter. Now I say, I know that if I do get sick, I will get well again in a couple days. And you know what happens? I get sick and I get well again in a couple days. That's it. I get a little extra sleep. I'll do maybe a sauna. I'll take in lots and lots of juices, lots and lots of organic green juices with lots of oregano oil and cayenne pepper. And I'll be doing my adult wellness protocol. I'll be doing all of those things, right? I'll be loading up on all those things and I'll get well. That's it. That's how I look at it. I expect to stay healthy. I expect to be healthy. I expect to live a life without joint pain. I expect my fingers and my thumbs not to hurt anymore like they did when I was 17, right? I expect for my joints and my feet not to hurt anymore. I expect all of those things and I get those things. But also at the same time, I don't want to turn this into a, woo-woo new age podcast, although I'm not against any of that and actually believe in it. But for the people that don't, I want to keep this also somewhat science-based, is you do have to understand is that I'm expecting it, but I'm also then doing the things that will allow for the outcome that I want. I'm not just saying it, but then I'm doing the things. So what do I have? Well, I have the vibration, I have the frequency to align myself with the same things of the same vibration and frequency in life. And you can look at this. This is actual, you can look at this at a quantum level. And when you have a tuning fork, you can see that it begins to connect with and get in the same vibration as those things that are around them. So what I'm looking for this is I'm looking to tune myself into the same things that I want in life, the same vibrations of great health, of abundance in all areas of life, and giving gratitude and giving back and being of service to others. And when I'm down, one of the best things that I know that will pick me back up is to go out there and try to serve to the best of my ability. Now, it's very strange because I'm giving service, but I'm helping myself at the same time. Maybe that does not work for everyone. It may not. But for whatever reason, it works for me, and I'm happy to do it, and I feel it's a win-win. I try to help others win, and at the same time, I don't need anything back from those people because I'm already getting back everything that I could ever want and need. So how I want you to begin to use the law of expectancy in your life is this, is that you need to begin to expect all of the things that you want in life. Let's start with relationships. Let's look there. If you want a better relationship with your spouse, you have to expect it to be a great relationship. Now, it may not be right now, and you're not going to deny the truth. What you're going to say is, that was then. This is now. I have a new mindset that I'm working on. And because of that, I'm going to begin to believe it is going to be a great relationship because why shouldn't it be, right? This is what I want in life. So this is what I'm going to create in life. And the way that you do this is you begin to repeat it over and over and over. I'm going to do a future mindset and motivation Monday. I'm going to talk about that there's two ways to get new results in life and two ways to reprogram the mind or program the mind. One is before 7 years old and the other is as an adult. That's why it's so important. If you have young children under the age of 8, all that programming is happening right now. They are in a theta-based state. Everything they see and everything you say is being absorbed. They are a sponge. Be aware of that. I'm going to talk about that on a future show. But I want you to keep in mind, if you're over the age of 8 listening to this podcast, you already have those programs running in you. But that's okay. I had to reprogram a lot of mine. You'll have to reprogram some of yours. That's not a problem. The way that we do that is through repetition. I'll talk about that more in the future. What I want to tell you today, though, is whatever it is, whether it's relationship, right, or it's career, or it's body, or it's your health, or it's your spirituality, it is through repetition. Emile Q, or I always can't pronounce this man's name. He's a French psychologist. Emile Q, I believe, is how you pronounce his name. It's Emilecoue. And I actually took French for 7 years. My teachers would not be too happy with me right now. But here's what it is, though. And I wrote about this in my book, The Rain Barrel Effect. He was a psychologist. He gave his patients this phrase to say every day. And I believe that you should begin with this if you have no other mantra to say. Every day in every way, I'm getting better and better. Every day in every way, I'm getting better and better. Every day in every way, I'm getting better and better. And you just put that on loop. Put it on loop. Put it on loop. Why? Because it's a form of hypnosis. That is how you get hypnotized when you're under 7, 8 years old as well, because you're putting yourself in that theta-based state. Repeat it. Put it on loop. Keep saying it, and it can be applied to anything. You want to move forward in your career? You want to do something you've never done before? You're in your 40s, 50s, 60s. Don't believe you can change your career? Don't believe you can have the life that you want? You can. Okay, every day in every way, you're getting better and better. You need to say it to yourself, every day in every way, I'm getting better and better. It could be for a relationship. Why? Because you need to improve yourself. If your relationship is not where you want it to be, you need to first look at yourself. You can blame the other person, but all you can work on is you. So get yourself as great as possible. Do as much as you can do. Begin to give that other person whatever it is that they need and expect then it will come back to you. That's another law, the law of reciprocity, right? If you give, it will eventually come back. People talk about karma. And again, this seems new age for a lot of people. Karma's been around forever, right? It's what you expect. It's what you give. It will come back around. So what I want you to think about is this. Every day in every way, I'm getting better and better. Now apply that to any area of your life. I work with people, the sickest of the sick. You might not get better month one, okay? Because you've been sick for decades. But we're setting the stage, right? We're fertilizing the soil. We're planting the seed. We're getting you well one step at a time. And that's what we need to do, right? That's what we need to do. Most people will get well within 12 to 16 weeks, right? That's it. 99 out of 100 people, 12 to 16 weeks will get you well, okay? We'll figure it out through functional medicine lab testing. We'll figure out what's going on. We'll begin to put you through the process, and you're going to get well, okay? But for those people where it's deep-seated, and you've been dealing with this for 20 years, or you've been sick since you were a child, and you're 45 years old right now, right? We're going to keep working the process. One cellular change after another, every 12 to 16 weeks, 10% better per month. Keep going, keep pushing, and you are going to work on your mindset at the same exact time. I'll tell you right now, if you combine the work, if you combine the action with the mindset, there's no stopping you. But you can't allow those subconscious programs to sabotage you. If you feel like you've been falling behind in certain areas of your life, I can almost guarantee you there's some type of self-sabotage. So look at this. Do an assessment of your life. I love this. So many people, they won't accept their body type. Again, like I say this online all the time. I see all these people who don't have the experience and they're teaching about Ayurvedic body types. And they're saying, oh, my body type is this. You know, they don't want to accept their body type. Like you're teaching others and you're not even accepting your own body type. Accept. This is where you are right now. It's great. No issues, even if you're not happy with it. But you've accepted it. Now let's talk about where we want to go, right? But you have to be self-aware. So are you in your place where you want with your career or what you're doing right now with your life, right? And what about your relationships? What about your spirituality? What about your health? And what about your body? If any of those areas are doing great, you expect them to be great. You do. You don't even probably think about it. You just expect it because that was one of your programs, right? That's either a program you set or family set or community set or friend set, whatever it was. If you're doing great in one area, it's because you expect to do great in that area, right? But what about the other areas? The other areas, not as confident, not as expectant for amazing things to happen in those areas. Maybe because you saw your parents or grandparents or someone in the community that you were close with, or it's a cultural part or whatever it might be, right? Whatever it might be, that's what you need to look at a subconscious level. And your life is already telling you that. As long as you stay aware, your life is already telling you what your subconscious programs are. If there's an issue with finances, what's that subconscious program playing? If there's an issue with advancing in a certain part of your career, what's going on there? Like, why do you tell yourself you can only be at that level at a subconscious level? Same with health. If you're reached out at your max, like, I'm kind of always run down. Why? Why are you always run down? Why do you believe that? So what I want you to do is two things. One is first, I want you to change your expectancy. And if you don't believe it, put it on loop. Start to begin to reprogram that mind. That will start to change your thoughts. When you begin to change your thoughts, you're going to have new feelings. Those new feelings are going to lead to actions, new actions that you take, which will eventually move you towards your goal. Now, it's a positive feedback loop. Now you're saying, oh, I am getting somewhere. I am starting to get better every day in every way. I'm giving the right thoughts, right? I'm reprogramming with new thoughts. I have new feelings. I'm starting to feel a little bit more self-confident, right? Even if things aren't going my way, I can see that I'm moving in that direction. I'm taking the action day after day, and I believe it. As you believe it and you see it in your life, you're going to start to want to do more of it. As you want to do more of it, you're going to begin to move forward in your life, and you will eventually have everything that you want for yourself in life. So remember, any area of your life right now that is not as great as it could be, I want you to take just an assessment. Not judge yourself. You're not bad. Nothing's wrong with you. Everything is great. You found out right now this is where you're falling a little bit behind, okay? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to say, okay, this is where I'm at right now, understood it, and I'm actually grateful because I never knew that my subconscious programs underlying my conscious thoughts were that this is my max level, that this is my ceiling. Now I can see that that's a program I've been given. Here's what I'm going to do. I don't need to believe that program. I'm going to begin to reprogram my mind. I'm going to tell myself that I am getting better. It doesn't have to happen tomorrow, but I'm going to start to work the process. I'm going to start to naturally feel happier because I've discovered something I never knew before. So now I'm going to start to take action, even just small actions, because I know that small actions over time lead to great things in my life. If you take that attitude, if you have that mindset, there'll literally be no stopping you. Thanks so much for tuning into today's Motivation and Mindset Monday. It's always a pleasure getting to speak with you. And as always, if this show is helpful, please do feel free to pass it along to anyone else it may serve. Before you go, I wanted to share a personal story with you. The real reason I began to get well finally is because I figured out what was wrong with me. And that might seem pretty obvious, but I went from doctor to doctor for over 2 years before discovering at-home functional medicine lab testing. These are the labs that enabled me to finally figure out what was wrong with my hormones, blood sugar, electrolytes, and gut health. And once I knew what was wrong, I could then follow a proven plan in order to rebalance my body from the inside out. This is why I believe so strongly in functional medicine lab testing and why I've made it my mission to share these labs with the world. Now at equa.life, you can order an at-home lab test or lab bundle for you and your family and be able to complete it within the week. Plus, the EquaLife difference is that you're not left to try to read and figure out these labs on your own. We explain what your lab numbers mean, what they mean in the much bigger picture, and then how to go about rebalancing your body in order to heal. To see our full selection of lab tests, or to set up a free lab selection call to find out what labs may be best for you, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. And do remember, we ship these all over the world. To find out more and to set up your free lab selection call, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. That's EQUI.LIFE/labs.